Namaste, namaste, precious, precious souls. Welcome to Book of Life. I love saying this, Happy New Year. So welcome to January's Book of Life. Today we're going to be reading from the fifth degree, lesson 6, Psychic Phenomena in the Aquarian Age. Okay. So before we get started, we'll just do a little invocation. Just go ahead and place the tip of the tongue on the palate. Just be in a nice receptive pose. To the Supreme Being, the source and fountain of all life, Heavenly Father, Heavenly Mother, to all of our spiritual teachers, to the Astarian hierarchy, to Robert and Earlyne, to Burton Bigelow, Master Astara, Lord Kuthumi, Lord Rama, Lord Zoser, to the Lord Yehoshua, to Lord Christ, Holy Mother Mary, Lord Kuan Yin Buddha, all the great, great ones, to our celestial guides, our angel guides, our higher souls, our oversouls, Sanat Kumara, the Solar Logos, the Universal Logos. May we be a center for the radiation of thy power. Teach us to travel light, that we may better gain the heights, break the bonds that bind. Teach us to give ourselves entirely to thy service, to attune ourselves to thy will. Teach us to lay down the small personal life for the greater cosmic life, and to love with the love of God, with thanks and in full faith. Om Tat Sat Om. All right. Fifth degree, lesson 6, psychic phenomena in the Aquarian Age. Humankind's needs in the Aquarian Age. One need not even be an astute observer to be informed of the dawning Aquarian Age, which is now unfolding around us, is an age of unparalleled mind, body, and spirit activity. In all the popular publications in the news stories, simply by observing daily life, the swing of so many toward mysticism and esoteric philosophy indicates that this is to be an era of spiritual advancement. Even science, in its vast fields of accomplishment, verges on the mythical magic of yesteryears, changing that which was once a secret alchemy into everyday possibilities. The faith and dogmas of the past are being subjected to more than purely intellectual analysis. Like a mountain of ice melts before the sun, they are dissolving before the onslaught of unfolding intuition. Traditional and dogmatic religious education, which once inspired a belief in God, is, in this age of intuition, found wanting. Such an education raises more questions than it answers. When a friend or relative departs from among us to the invisible world, some people turn to their traditional religion for consolation and solace. They are forced to be satisfied with the same empty platitudes and are overwhelmed with the desire to discover substantial evidence of continued existence. These searchings have become so absolute and powerful as to be the foundation of a new religious faith based upon a system of universal philosophy. Indeed, the upsurge of seeking for answers to what life is all about has already resulted in a swing toward a new religion, which, for want of a name, has simply been termed mysticism. In the midst of all this confusion and commotion, the question automatically arises, in view of this upsurge of interest in a new type of religion or spiritual tradition, what is the soul's greatest need in this new age? The answer is that you, the seeker, not only require but demand a demonstration of the truth of immortality, tangible evidence that the soul continues to exist beyond the fringes of this material, mundane dailiness of life on earth. What is behind the need for miracles? When you, in your quest, demand miracles, the great cosmic law of need and fulfillment will give you miracles. Humans need food, and there is food. We need water, and there is water. We need love, and there is love. We need to know of immortality, and we find immortality. We need the divine being, and we find that divine light within and around us. Now we want to see, hear, and converse with those gone beyond this life who, for want of a better word, we call spirits, and so we shall. Always we may rest satisfied that our desire will, somewhere in the great providential allotment of God's immutable laws, find fulfillment and appropriate gratification. If Robert and I would remain true to Astara's spiritual office, we must, as teachers, face this upsurging need and include instructions concerning psychic phenomena. Even though such psychic seeking holds its reasons for caution, we have promised that Astarian seekers will find answers to their spiritual quest in the literature of Astarianry. Many may not find such teachings of interest, but we must write also for those who are less than experienced in these ideas and practices and who must be guided in their psychic unfoldment. These instructions must point to the need for caution and concern as well as the blessings, must offer guidelines for safety. To fulfill this need, we hopefully suggest guidelines by which one may chart one's ESP course in the sea of senses beyond our mortal usage. It seems better that the Astarian be thoroughly informed through Astarianry than left to enter the downpouring psychic influences of Aquarius unguided and unaware. It must not be thought that we would encourage all Astarians to rush blindly into a development of psychic unfoldment. Rather, it must be thought that we recognize a need for guidelines for the many who will be needing psychic fulfillment and whose spiritual constitutions will demand satisfaction. The spiritual and religious needs of this age of investigation must be met. The incoming souls desire adequate answers to their intuitive receivings. They demand miracles. They demand answers. They want proof of the truth of immortality. Astara can only point them toward the way of miracles, of demonstrations. Astara can only point out the laws behind such questions and help you, the seeker, find your own individual answers. Thus, we enter a new dispensation. When a tree is yet a sapling, it has not quite arrived at the fruit-bearing stage of its development. So, the human race, in its spiritual growth, only demonstrates that which it is capable of developing. Like the tree, humankind in bygone ages has put forth only the fruits it could develop, that which its stage of unfoldment could produce. In this Aquarian age, the seeker is given the promise of full burgeoning, not just twigs and branches of partial growth. Can I give what I do not have? The miracles and spiritual perceptions of this age will flow as a natural consequence from the state of mental development attained. Miracles will be discovered to be not miraculous, but indeed consistent with nature's immutable and universal principles. And so will the psychic and the supernatural. All will be found to be consistent with human capabilities. The human race has arrived at a stage of intuitional endowment. It is learning how to sever the cords which bind it to material concepts and to soar into incomparable realms of infinity. It is, in short, prepared to discover the realm of spirit, the greatest of all personal miracles. Opened doors to perception. During this new age in which we are living, people are becoming more than simply aware. They are opening many doorways of perception. Heretofore, we have been handicapped by innumerable misconceptions. When human beings en masse become aware that there is another world existing, links in the telepathic wires will begin to extend from one mind to another. Messages which seem to have proceeded only one way, from Earth to over there, will now be understood to travel in both directions. Over there strives to return answers to otherwise communicate. From whence comes our inner light? The hazy gloom which hangs over earth and those living on her will be somewhat dispelled. More and more souls will become lighted within, becoming as beacons to approaching Etherians. With the birth of the divine light within, the physical form becomes illuminated with a lambent glory, increasing as one travels the road to spiritual unfoldment. The quality of light radiating from any personality reveals one's spiritual condition and status. Humankind is beginning to realize it has sold its birthright to open communion for a mess of ecclesiastical pottage. The potential has ever been there, but humankind has been prevented from approaching it. The church has almost universally taught that only evil spirits possess the power to communicate. All holy men and women who have passed from earth have thus been relegated to the silence of the tomb, stripped of such powers and privileges. How incredible it is that the mass consciousness of the race itself has not paused to consider the foolishness of such a teaching. It makes God arbitrary and unjust in the most cruel sense. We are told that God grants to enemies, Satan and his adversaries, advantages which are denied the saints, bestowing enormous power upon the forces of darkness, but denying the same power to the ministering spirits who seek to attend the children of light. It has been declared that the avenues of communication open the way to destruction while it simultaneously closes the bright path to the higher life. How is it that people can supposedly commune with evil spirits, but not masters and angels, teachers, friends, and guides? Would not the good spirits have at least equal facilities for communication? Not according to the traditional theologian. The time of the great liberation is now dawning. This age of Aquarius is seeing people experience a great thirst for spiritual, mystical knowledge. The human soul has always possessed a natural craving to rend the veil, but only the bravest have risked the judgment of the church. It must be admitted that too often such bravery has not been coupled with wisdom. Although they, on the one hand, have broken their bondage and gained the freedom to communicate, they have in turn become equally tenacious bondsmen, holding the spirits with whom they have communicated bound to certain theological concepts in order to prove they are of God. Thus, since the doorway to communication was first opened in the latter part of the 19th century, many Etherians from the higher planes who would have bestowed truth and light upon earth have been prevented from doing so by the narrow precepts of humankind itself. The great majority of communicants have been spirits who knew very little more than the seekers on earth. The high call brings high answers. As the new age proceeds, there will be an earnest spirit of inquiry after truth, attracting and calling upon those from Highland and Summerland to share their wisdom with us. This age of Aquarius holds hope for the promise of fulfillment, including a deepening of understanding regarding the connection between and healing powers of the mind, body, and spirit, a true wisdom regarding the ancient mystical teachings and traditions, a life wave of people involved in spiritual practice in their daily lives, such as meditation, Tai Chi, yoga, and so on, and a new understanding and development of intuitive and psychic skills in the context of spiritual growth and achievement. Existence already proven. For the most part, undeniable experimental proof is already in existence for the one who truly searches. It is necessary that such tremendous convictions evolve through gradual growth. As we have said, we are now experiencing a renewed upsurge in psychic investigation. Throughout the world, there are many private circles of friends who meet regularly in a quiet and reverent quest, the purpose being to find one or more among them who have become psychic, mediumistic, or at least sensitive to contact from higher spiritual beings. Many methods of unfoldment are employed by these groups: table tilting, automatic writing, the planchette, the Ouija board, attempted clairvoyance, and others. Messages. Many a table tipping, Ouija board, planchette, or other type of session has begun as a parlor game, only to end in a sobering realization that the unseen communicator is a loved one believed lost and gone. A startling personal message will come through, the source of which cannot be denied, and at once the minds of those who began in only the spirit of fun are confronted with an incredible mystery. Such a manifestation has often been the means of diverting one's attention from one's purely mundane expression and activities to a prolonged investigation into immortality. Awakened suddenly to a new concept of humankind's estimate of existence, your mind ceases to accept the doctrine of immortality as simply the delusion of the poet or the extravagant dream of the gullible, and you begin to see life as truly eternal. Like a blinding burst of light comes the sudden realization that the hills and valleys, the rivers and the seas, the music and melodies of this life are but hieroglyphic representatives of eternal actualities in a larger unseen realm of causes. Regardless how the mind attains its conviction, there can be but one result, a happier, more whole being. Sport or serious research? Many people are not serious inquirers. When sitting for automatic writing, for instance, they begin it as a sport that they usually care little who writes so long as the hand moves. This is sad, for what is the point in automatic writing? Again, why ask questions of just any who happen to have answered the request to write? Those who respond to such a request are often only those in search of sport. They can interfere with later serious communication. Therefore, tilt the table, use the planchette, the Ouija board, or automatic writing only as a serious means of communicating, not as a game. A time for all things, to laugh and to refrain from laughter. Ecclesiastes. Only when people evidence a seriousness in the effort will Etherians attempt to help with serious effects. Almost anyone can contact Etheria if one deeply wishes, but true development requires time since it is an adjustment to different rates of vibration. People should seek to communicate only with those for whom they feel strong bonds of affection or respect. The Etherians responding will evidence a willingness to establish meaningful and honest messages. It is surprising how many Etherians are content not to contact Earth in any way. They are glad to have escaped the bonds of flesh, the physical or emotional chains and fetters that restricted them. Being free, they are indifferent to Earth and its problems, reasoning that those they left behind must join them sooner or later and learn the truth for themselves. Do all in Etheria want contact with us? Some newcomers to Etheria, still engrossed in their dogmatic traditional religious beliefs, often will look askance at all efforts to communicate with Earth. They frown and shake their heads and declare that they are quite certain the leaders of their religion do not permit such a communion. They refuse to engage in any such activity for fear some ecclesiastic will seek them out and punish them. Some may be persuaded of the falseness of their beliefs. Others must be left alone. So reticent are they to partake of what they think is the devil's work. The vast majority are eager to tell us of life over there. Thus, we should seek to communicate only with those with whom there has been an empathy which acts as a powerful stimulus for contact. It is affection and mutual love with thoughts concentrated on the individual one wishes to contact, which enables an Etherian to make use of the force generated and prevents its being used by pranksters. In this time of awakening, there is an eagerness on both sides to reach each other. Each time you, an Astarian, guide others toward establishing a contact with Etherians, you may be sure of guidance from the unseen. Every person who becomes psychically unfolded is helping toward the coming psychic development of the human race. Psychic senses are often inherited. That is, those souls who are psychics who are ready to incarnate, but who have not done so because psychic parents have not been available, will now begin to seek rebirth. Thus, those with developed sixth senses will become the norm. The wonder of today will become the commonplace of tomorrow. Educating both sides. When Etherians approach Earth, the atmosphere seems gloomy and chilly to those who are inexperienced with Earth contact. The forms are indistinct and hazy. Sounds may be more confusing than pleasing. This may come as a distinct surprise to newly arrived pilgrims who wish to return to Earth in their astral forms, especially those who held the view that the Earth life was the ultimate, the all in all. What will I have to unlearn over there? They held that if there was an afterlife, communication was an artifice of the devil attempting to destroy one's soul, or they believed one slept in the grave until the day of judgment. They stoically accepted the silence of the tomb, believing that all revelation from God had ceased. They must be convinced that such an assumption is equivalent to declaring that the violinist is dead because the strings of the violin are broken. Such newcomers must be instructed much as we on earth must be made aware of the reality and tangibility of the other world. Buildings, landscapes, and even the physical forms of people seem wrapped in a purple mist, and the confused Etherean, if he or she is interested enough, must re-educate their views in order to probe the mists and focus the vision, bringing people and objects clearly into view. While a person on earth may become aware of the spiritual presence of a loved one only by sensing the Etherean, utilizing the laws of love and empathy can train their vision to perceive people with considerable clarity. The power of love cannot be destroyed by the grave. It will link soul with soul and bridge any gulf. Spirit return. Does not the Apostles' Creed say, I believe in the communion of saints? What is the good of saying it if one does not believe it? And if one does believe it, why hold that it is only the evil or misguided spirits who return? Must it always be either saints or the wicked? And even the saints have been denied psychic reentry to earth by many. Cannot the millions in between also return to communicate with us? People all over the globe are being aroused and urged into action by spiritual and psychic forces. These are felt, if not seen, and many who feel the power cannot define nor understand it. On the other hand, many, responding to the urge, understand full well the forces urging them into action. Psychics will become numerous, not all necessarily mediums capable of producing psychical phenomena, but psychics capable of demonstrating mental powers. These channels will place great spiritual truths plainly and reasonably before our minds, bringing messages which will be acceptable to those who will use the light of reason by which to test them. It is important to remember that there are many degrees of proof. Evidence which seems insignificant may become vastly enhanced by preceding or succeeding facts or arguments. It is important to run all psychic communications received at any time past your good common sense and intellectual abilities. If they seem unreasonable, reject them. What may seem illogical to one, however, may seem truth to another. How are Etherians connected with higher light spheres? Always advise against emotionally struggling persons from becoming too involved in communication with the spirit world. It is these who create problems for both Earth and Etheria. The higher orders of Etherians cannot easily communicate except through a calm, well-balanced person of Earth. Emotionally unbalanced psychics attract their counterparts from the other side. These frivolous or malicious spirits send messages which can bring misunderstanding or harm. Even teachings from those who claim to be high masters should not necessarily be accepted as the ultimate. Remember, there are many great ones above the masters whom even they do not yet know. It is good to realize that a psychic gulf exists between the two worlds, making communication fraught with difficulties. If a message is received which sounds unreasonable, however, it does not always indicate fraud. If the one transmitting the message has usually proven to be trustworthy, bear in mind that occasionally he or she cannot pierce either the darkness of our material minds or the veil between the next world and this. Communication between the two worlds is governed by laws which our science has not yet defined. Neither they nor we, as yet, fully recognize the causes which interfere with clear reception of messages, nor are the Etherians always able to formulate laws for our guidance. Usually, a transmitter over there can only send communications by using materials stored in the mind of his or her medium. All Etherians are not perfect in wisdom. Thus, it would be useful for every well-meaning psychic to become a storehouse of knowledge which your helpers in spirit can draw upon and enhance, not to repeat that which is already known, but to use as a catalyst through which to enlarge knowledge into wisdom. Etherians do not possess unlimited knowledge any more than we of Earth do. They can only present teachings which they have gained from their own particular schools of thought and from their own advanced teachers. Beyond this, they cannot go, for beyond this, they do not know themselves. Should one in the spirit world profess to possess knowledge which is absolutely certain, declaring that he or she has the true and only explanation of the great mysteries of life and immortality, then that spirit is merely giving you what has been taught by masters who, with all due reverence, are no more entitled to speak the absolute than the most advanced teachers of any earthly school. As with any teaching, if it fits with you, if it is helpful, positive, filled with love and inspiration, then accept it for yourself. If not, then do not. Nor should Etherians be expected to constantly and accurately prophesy the future like fortune tellers, or keep us informed of events occurring on the other side of the globe. Sometimes it can be done, sometimes it cannot. Often those on the other side think wistfully how much more they would have been able to do if only they had prepared themselves at least to some extent while on Earth. Difficulties encountered. Many people question why Etherians cannot always and immediately give perfect answers to every question. For one thing, they are themselves hampered by their own limitations. Many simply are not yet mentally capable of impressing the proper words or thought pictures upon earthly brains. They are limited in other ways. Because they must communicate through our earthly medium, they must operate according to the laws of earth, and from their realm, these laws are now strange to them. They often find, too, that the medium has their mind positively fixed on one answer only, which often acts as a barrier to receptivity. Thus, we close off other avenues of power which might be employed. The force of our will clashes with the wills of Etheria, resulting only in confusion and false answers. Never forget that it is they who are attempting to impress our thoughts. Thus, ours should always be held flexible. The power they employ is magnetism, a subtle channel of vibrations from their minds to ours. If the thrust of our mind points only in one stubborn direction, the flow is scattered. Results are questionable. What is psychic energy? Psychic communication can be said to be a transmutation of energy. Energy being understood to mean the intermediary by which the impact of the will of the sender is united to the effective portions of the mind of the receiver. Such energy we call vibration or frequency of thought waves. Vibration in motion is called energy, not space energy as merely oscillation forward and backward only, but in elliptical and spiral movements as well. Etherians concentrate their wills on the movement of these vibrations, causing a transmutation of space energy into thought quality. The same energy is employed to create a solar system, energy obeying the dictates of the will of higher spiritual beings. Blind force is non-existent. All creation is directed energy. In communicating, Etherians transmute energy into thought waves and send the waves into the mind of the person on Earth. Enlarging our scope, all matter is vibration. All light is vibration. Worlds and universes are created by light vibrating in varying degrees of density. Physical eyes observe the physical world by means of light. Our sun releases light at a certain frequency, but beyond Earth's atmospheric envelope, this light frequency is transmuted, becoming vast regions of darkness until it approaches the atmospheric zone of another planet. Striking these zones, the frequency is again transmuted, once more becoming light. The planets of our solar system, radiating atmospheric zones, transmute energy into light, thus enabling scientists to view them. But worlds without number outside our infinitesimal corner of the Milky Way radiate incompatible atmospheric zones, causing them to remain unseen by us. The light shineth in the darkness, but the darkness comprehendeth it not. John chapter 1, verse 1. This is created spirit and matter. Matter becomes that dense degree of light beheld by us on earth. Who is an enlightened soul? The same is true in relation to spiritual matters. It is only when we on earth emit certain atmospheric conditions or lighted auras that etherians can become operative through communication. Spiritual light pours down on earth just as does the sunlight, but those who walk in darkened auras comprehend it not. Only those who radiate an inner light perceive and comprehend. Laws of the unseen world. If the question arises, what good can possibly come from being in touch with those of the unseen world, it may be answered that such an experience is profitable to us just as a child profits from good examples given by parents. Teachings presented to guide and uplift those of earth are of benefit, just as are worthy teachings given to the child by its elders. If conditions of communication could more frequently have been established between our world and the unseen world centuries ago, we would now be witnessing a different life on earth today. But Earth's mass consciousness accepted the theological propositions that those who had died were sleeping, were no longer existing, or were unfit to contact. What accounts for varying reports of over here? Zoser explains the discrepancies in communications reaching human beings concerning life over there. Those who awaken on the lower planes will voice a different description from those who perceive the scenery of the higher life, each according to their own experience. Each, strictly honest, may present strangely different reports, yet the general truths remain the same. All communications agree that there are landscapes and flowers, running streams of living waters, homes, indescribable gardens, magnificent highlands and dismal lowlands, a wondrous kind of light, and beautiful music. These generalities of life over there run very much the same. Only details of individual experiences differ. Physical psychic phenomena. As the Aquarian age progresses, our own ethers becoming increasingly rarefied will admit a closer contact with forces, substances, and beings of higher worlds. As we move into the 21st century, there will be increasing indications of the presence and influence of spiritual beings and agencies possessing intelligence and manifesting extraordinary power over material objects. Astarians should be aware of the reasons behind most of these phenomena. Poltergeists. Considerable interest has been drawn to the activities of poltergeists in recent years. Such occurrences usually attract worldwide attention through the news media, but seldom is the mystery explained. The dictionary defines a poltergeist as a ghost or spirit that makes its presence known by any kind of clatter, such as knockings and the noises of moving objects. Such a definition is usually brushed aside by skeptical investigators. They prefer to believe these sounds and manifestations to be the effect of some ingeniously arranged machinery operating as part of a planned hoax. Others believe them to be produced by electrical discharges from magnetic batteries prearranged as a hoax. Still others swear them to be satanic influences operating under the auspices of the devil. The facts are that some of the manifestations and noises are produced by mischievous spirit entities using natural forces to produce the phenomena. But the question of interest to us is, What are the forces and how are they employed? First, it must be conceded that these singular manifestations almost always occur when a child, either male or female, is passing through the period of puberty. It should be obvious to the serious investigator that a planned hoax involving concealed machinery is outside the realm of reason because usually the youngster involved is, of all the family, the most terrified and mystified. Admitting the possibility of human agency in some of these events, still, when existing circumstances belie the feasibility of a hoax, one should look for other causes as a rational explanation. Science is comparatively ignorant to the principles governing the laws of mind and matter as they relate to the spirit world. Esoteric scientists search for a reasonable understanding as to how it is possible for spirits to move or levitate material things and why only certain people or localities are affected. Next, it must be remembered that the astral form is composed of matter, that which we see, feel, smell, except that it is in a high state of etherealization. Nor is it intangible except to our physical senses. To the spiritual senses, the spiritual form is vastly superior in every way to the physical. It is quite a simple matter for a spirit to employ certain forces unseen by us if they are emitted by peculiar physical forms or locations. Can spirits wield energies? Occasionally, a boy or girl passing through puberty will become a walking electromagnetic dynamo without being in the least conscious of the rare development. Their forms will become supercharged with vital magnetism and vital electricity. Positive magnetism and negative electricity alternate in potency. Their forms discharge small currents of magnetism or electricity similar to that emitted by the torpedo eel, especially through the soles of the feet. Often, when walking, particularly when ascending stairs, loud raps may be heard underfoot, causing one to suspect the involvement of a poltergeist. It is caused by the discharge of the child's own electricity in the atmosphere, resulting in a natural concussion of forces. When electricity is outpouring in enormous quantities, often books, keys, and metal objects will levitate and fly away from the vicinity of the youngster, and an overabundance of magnetic forces causes similar objects to fly toward him or her. Frequently, the approach of such a youngster will cause window panes to shatter. These phenomena manifest without the least involvement of poltergeists. Occasionally, such a young person, unconsciously producing such manifestations through natural emanations, will attract a spirit or spirits who become aware of the potential for making contacts with people of Earth. Sometimes, such an Etherian may be a poltergeist or mischievous spirit, or a prankster who delights in using the electromagnetic outpourings to topple chairs, pull off bedclothes, write on walls, hide shoes, and in general, create annoyance and fear. But there is considerable difference between a natural manifestation due to the overabundant flow of force and that which is committed by an intelligence. Whereas a window pane or glass door panel could splinter as a result of natural force, it requires intelligence to snatch bed covers off the bed. Investigators should be alert to note the difference. A distraught youngster should never be scolded or criticized for causing such phenomena. Rather, every precaution should be taken to protect him or her from their own auric emanations. The phenomena cease with the passing of time as the young system equalizes its natural forces and puberty gives way to unfolding maturity. Just as it is possible for a mischievous Etherian to produce pranks, so it is possible for friendly, evolved spirits to give messages to mature persons who possess an overabundance of these same electromagnetic forces. Any person who is a true medium must possess such a peculiar chemical makeup, for indeed these chemicals are necessary in the production of any physical psychic phenomena, which explains why such things happen only to certain people in certain localities. Confusion in communication. Often, when communicating, confusion may result because the Etherian may be describing subjective experiences, much as would a clairvoyant here on Earth. The psychic may say, I have seen the other planets, and we assume the psychic to mean that he or she has traveled vast distances. Actually, the psychic may have seen other planets subjectively through unfolding clairvoyance. A clairvoyant may subjectively view the other side of the earth and describe incidents occurring at the same moment in time. An Etherian may also subjectively view distant locales and speak of having seen these places. It should be established whether Etherians are presenting their facts as objective realities or through subjective inner vision. The same is true concerning the frequently asked question, have you seen the Christ, the Buddha, Mary, Moses, and so on? Most every religious Etherian sooner or later experiences a contact with their master teacher, but few will have actually seen this being as a personality. They will have beheld this being as a principle. He or she will be shown to them subjectively, and the experience being equally as valid, perhaps even more so, than an objective reality. Such a subjective experience usually reveals the potential of your possibilities, and with the avatar as your inspiration, with renewed spiritual zeal, you will set out to attain your own highest heights, the better, be closer to your own beloved teacher. The psychic's auric light. In the auric force field, there is a particular vital force that links the mind with the cerebrospinal nervous system, particularly the brain. In those who have developed psychic attributes, this essence gives off a glow like a phosphorescent light, created by the intensity of the vibrations of active psychic centers in the brain. To discarnate entities, such a light labels the person as a potential medium, a psychic. If you, as the psychic, would become a practical instrument for Etherians, you must learn consciously to calm the auric flow of color, sound, and light during periods of receptivity. This requires an act, focus, and practice. You should also remain self-detached from the incoming communication. To become emotionally involved obstructs receptivity. Often, you physically or psychically receive the communication not in words, but as thought waves. Thus, you must not allow your own desires to interpret the message. You should possess the ability to interpret the thought received and clothe it in words. Guardians and teachers. There is a chain of instructors extending from each person up through all the spheres of light. As deep-sea divers on the ocean floor need air from those above to carry out their missions in the watery depths, so do psychics need those teachers who overshadow them. The teacher, best able to accommodate him or herself to Earth's environment, is the one who will be selected to make the actual psychic contact with the person on Earth, but the message given may well originate from one on even higher planes. Some teachers are powerful enough to reach the person directly if the mind of the receiver is properly prepared for such a contact. When communicating with people on Earth, some Etherians are averse to relating their mundane history. This is true for two reasons. One, those who accomplished very little or had difficult lives do not care to describe their activities, nor to even remember their earth life. They wish to disconnect themselves from such depressing life memories. Therefore, they refuse to relate incidents of their past. Two, those who accomplished a worthwhile mission are reluctant to discuss it. They are aware of the importance of humility and are hesitant to relate details concerning heroism, courage, or leadership for fear of seeming prideful. Why does a nom de plume appeal to some in Etheria too? The same reasons exist as to why some spirit guides assume pseudonyms. Those who were not necessarily well known on Earth, but who now wish to become permanent contacts with sensitives of Earth, are reluctant to give their true names, for no one will have ever heard of them. They feel it best that They assume the name of some great soul or use a fictitious name, the better to gain the authority of respect. Those whose names are worthy of remembrance are often reluctant to reveal their identity because possession of a noted name grants a degree of notoriety over the medium themselves. Thus, distinguished personages are sometimes averse to linking themselves to someone of earth who might take advantage of their guardianship. Even though their chosen contact might never be guilty of such, individuals of the general public may claim them as their own personal teachers. I will give him a new name, which no man knows except he to whom it is given. Revelation chapter 2, verse 17. Occasionally, therefore, a truly distinguished person may change his or her last earth life name to a new spirit name. It is true, too, that as one advances in the spiritual realms and becomes an initiate in the mysteries, such a person is given a spiritual name. As time passes, they gradually drop the name by which they were known on earth and assume their spiritual name. It is this name by which they will usually become recognized as a spiritual teacher. And that endeth fifth degree, lesson 6. I love these. These are so good. Well, before we end, if you would like, we can share the blessing of the new Astara light meditation and blessing for the month. So if you are open and receptive, just go ahead and close your eyes and just place your palms facing up, and just be in a nice receptive pose. Take a nice slow inhalation, nice slow exhalation. And reaffirm, I am surrounded by the pure white light. I am enfolded, embraced, shielded, protected, healed by the pure white light. This light surges into, around, and through my blood, making it a fountain of life, bringing vitality and purity into my being. I am one with the great consciousness which is God. I am one with the pure white light. Only good can come to me. Only good shall go from me. The January blessing. Let the great white light shine upon and within you. Let it convey to your life the impulse toward satisfaction and achievement. Let it shine upon your path forevermore. The affirming meditation. Each time I pause a moment and read this, I activate in my life those spiritual principles which direct me towards strength of body, calmness of mind and emotion, accomplishment of purpose. As these qualities function within me, I become transformed. Vigor and vitality are expressed in my physical self. My mind is alert. I gain perception and insight. Only good can come to me. Only good shall go from me. I give thanks. I give thanks. I give thanks. And these blessings continue to manifest and to physicalize in your lives. Thank you very much for joining us for today's Book of Life, tonight's Book of Life, or the morning's Book of Life, depending on where you are. We'll see you tomorrow for blessing the prayer petitions. Hope you had a great holiday. And again, wishing you a most prosperous and healthy and happy new year. And we'll see you hopefully tomorrow. Namaste, precious, precious souls. Take care.